maybe to add on to the same is to decentralize fund management and money managers from Nairobi, because technology may be there, but you must have that human touch, especially when you don't know. And especially the example he gave, somebody is in Kinagop farming, how do they demystify some of these jargon that we use? So I think one of the things, and I'm very proud to be associated with APSA, is that at least now there is branch network. You can go to a banking hall and talk to somebody who understands investment, because a lot of money managers don't have distribution network. So I think we are making good strides as a country when we see financial services who have good branch network actually getting the investment to the very ends of every county, at least where somebody can walk in and ask about it. I think the big work remains of making sure that the quality of service is standardized, that the quality is not left in Nairobi and only footprints in the up country. So we are doing a lot in terms of empowering the teams that service, especially downstream. The other thing I would like to mention in terms of investment education, a lot of it will come from yourself. You have to lift yourself. You have to lift yourself with knowledge. You cannot be ignorant, I repeat, and make good investment decisions. So that knowledge, instead of scrolling on TikTok, scroll on Nabo, scroll on good content that can build you and help you to interrogate your advisor intelligently, because like she said, they are selling and you can't blame them. They're making a living out of it. So in this journey of life, you'll find somebody who is just selling and not really advising. And it makes a big difference if you can ask the right questions. So at least have the basic principles of investment, understand risk, and understand return, understand time value of money, understand liquidity, understand loss and things like that, so that you ask the right questions to the investment advisors who are not really advisors, so that when you project knowledge, then you get quality feedback and you make quality decisions. So a lot of it has to come from yourself. I know it's not easy, but we can do it if you're determined towards it. To the question around pension, very relevant question. And you point out and you have identified the real need, that this person has retired and they need to replace their previous income with investment income. So you look for a portfolio that is cash generative, that is going to give you regular income that you can rely on. So you have different asset classes, and I'm sure in the course of the day you've heard about many asset classes. So you look at the asset classes that are going to be cash generative without adding you stress, because also age has kicked in. And while you say that except bonds, I will tell you again, for a retiree, bonds will still remain your number one choice, because the cash generative nature of bonds will give you that peace of mind that any retiree would want, and the predictability of when the money will come. But other than that, you can complement with insurance products like annuities. An annuity basically will be a regular income stream coming from your insurance. You pay a lump sum at the beginning and they pay you a regular income, and they even add on top of it some inflation protection on it, and even a guaranteed period and things like that. So you can consider your regular bonds or annuities from a credible insurance company, and that should be able to carry you through your retirement age. Obviously, properties are good, but cash generative properties, and they have to be stable. So not land, not idle land. It has to be cash generative. But again, we keep advising, these are very illiquid assets. So when you're getting older, your property portfolio should be becoming less and less, because The cost of running a property is also not easy, and of course there can be variations in getting tenancies and things like that. But they also come in as a complementary asset class that can give you regular income during your sunset years. You want to reduce your risk as much as possible, and risk is not only in losses because of default. Risk is also in terms of illiquidity, because you may need cash in a very short time. And so if you only have very illiquid assets like properties which are earning you income, selling in the event of a large cash need may become problematic, and you find that you dispose your asset at a poor price. So you need to look for assets that are less risky. I know we've been exposed to risk in the government security segment, but notwithstanding that, government bonds will still remain ranked as one of the lowest risk asset classes in constructing a portfolio. They can have the risk that we saw last year, default risk almost creeping in, but nonetheless, they remain quite stable. Even in the countries that have defaulted, we've seen them, like if you talk to Ghanaians, they're back to bonds. And last year, their government defaulted. They're back to it because it is almost a necessary evil in the investment world that bonds must come back. So I think whoever is aging, tell them bonds, tell them annuities, tell them maybe income drawdowns and things like that. But cash must be the first thing they consider.
There's a gentleman in the industry called Edward Odundo. He likes saying, I like following because he's a retiree. Yeah. The three most important things when you're retired is liquidity, medical, and friends.
Yes. Friends.
Liquidity, medical, and friends. So I think she's addressed the point very well. I thought it's good for me to remind you that. There's a question that was asked there about how to increase savings. I feel it hasn't been adequately answered. And there are two ways to do that. One, and the most important, is mindset. We need to change our mindset from we get income, we budget expenses, and then we save whatever remains. The right way is you get income, you pay yourself, then you budget for the balance. Somehow, I know it's very difficult, but somehow you tend to survive. You tend to find ways of making through, and your income starts increasing to meet up your expenses. It's a culture, it's something that must be done. And we as an industry, we need to undertake that in terms of education. There is no other way to do that. The other alternative, which is government related, is to put regulations in place. If you look at the largest pool of funds we have in the country, it's pension. I think it's about 1.8 to 2 trillion shillings now. Is it 2 trillion shillings? Almost 2 trillion shillings today. The largest pool of capital in the country. Why? Because it's mandatory. It does not allow anyone to make a decision. Once you are employed and you are part of a pension scheme, that money lives. It doesn't care whether you have paid rent, whether you have done whatever, it just lives. And that happens to be the biggest investment that many people have by the time they retire. Now we need to switch that to be driven by ourselves rather than employer, because your employer doesn't know your living expenses. Your employer doesn't know the kind of lifestyle that you live. It is only you who knows. So you really need to switch around how you spend and make sure that you're one of the top people that you pay when you look at how you distribute your income in a year. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Just to stay with you, Mr. Muchiri, maybe you can give us your closing remarks before you hand over the microphone to Aliyah, who will also answer the remaining questions, as you also give your closing remarks, and Elizabeth as well. Is that okay?
Yes, it's okay.
Great.
I like saying this, and I'm going to repeat it here. your business or your employment is your side hustle. Your portfolio is your core business. Your portfolio, investment portfolio, is really your core business, because what your children will really inherit is the cash flows that come from your portfolio, not your business, because they may not even have the expertise to run the business that you run. So make sure you build a sound portfolio. Warren Buffett owns very many companies, but he's not really in the business of managing those companies. He's in the business of managing his portfolio. And that's how he makes it very simple. What cash flows do those businesses contribute to his portfolio? That is his core business. That's what he spends most of his time doing. That's what Dr. CK, the late Dr. CK, used to do. So your business, if you are an owner, or your employer, if you are employed, whatever you do from 8 to 5, please consider it to be a side hustle. But your investment portfolio, where you'll be making cash flows that will help you to live the kind of life that you want to live, make that your core business, and you'll remember this day in a beautiful way. Thank you very much.
I think for me, the items that have stood out today is, if you haven't started investing, start now. And no matter what amount, start small. Educate yourself, so financial literacy is critical. Like Elizabeth said, go onto YouTube, follow Nabo, educate yourself so you know what is out there and what's available, and understand your own risk appetite for any of those products. And I think there's something that Mary earlier on mentioned, and she said, look for value, not price.
All right. I think for me, what I would advocate is financial wellness. We've done a lot as a nation to promote wellness in every other way, but financial wellness is not fully embedded in many of us. I think we need to embed financial wellness. We need, even for our children, to embed financial wellness, because it affects every other facet of your life. If you're not healthy, then you'll find that even your mental, your physical health, your work life, everything else will fall through the cracks because of financial problems. So if you can master financial wellness by picking the right habits, these habits, and make them consistent, you'll actually conquer the challenges that we're having. Whether it is high taxation, whether it is high inflation, you'll be able to navigate them much better than when you're not prepared. And the story of the Ice Age, I think, is one that really resonates. When you read about the Ice Age, a lot of scientists have tried to understand really what happened. How could all that ice melt? Who hit the whole world to really melt that ice? Because it said that a big portion of the world was actually in ice. But research has showed that it took really minimal change in temperature to actually cause the Ice Age. And the Ice Age story is about small incremental increases. It's the same thing about our money. Small incremental, disciplined, consistent way of saving and investing. But the impact, the magnitude is so huge over time that it will amaze even yourself. And I've seen those stories. I've met this client, and this is the last story I give you guys, who told me that she was a stay-at-home mom, and she definitely did not have an income, but she got income from her husband for groceries, and she chose to save and invest. And for her, what she did is to look for bargains in the groceries and save. And the end of the story, when she was ending, she told me, I built a house in Nyari. That's one of the big suburbs, high-end suburbs. Back in the 90s, she built through those savings, of course, the husband chipped in when he saw that she's really done a lot. And when we were speaking, she had just sold the house for 100 million to take the daughter to the US. She said, my husband built me a home and I had this one, and they were selling it for 100 million shillings. And she told me, I have never worked in an office. I do not know what is corporate, but I have done something with the little savings that I got. I think those are the stories of resilience, the stories that can tell you it is possible that even those who don't have a lot, you can be able to do much more. Indeed, her story was, we were living in a one-room house when I started. And for me, that really struck me and challenged me. And I want to put it as a challenge for all of us, especially the youth. Just take the initiative, take that bold step, and don't look down on yourself because you don't have a lot, but be consistent and disciplined. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's clap for them as they leave the podium. Elizabeth Irungu, Head of Asset Management, please come down. Asante sana. Aliyah Khanbai, Tribe Lead, Wealth and Insurance, Financial Services Division, Safaricom, and Pius Muchiri, the founding CEO, Nabu Capital, connecting investors and lucrative opportunities across Africa. Oh, wow.